I received a question yesterday about making a video on how to stop and help negative thoughts about yourself. Now, I've made a few different videos on helping to manage negative self-talk during games and during practices. And so what I want to do with this video is really dive into the two different types of negative thoughts that we need to pay attention to, which helps guide us in the direction of how we actually want to manage and change these negative thoughts about ourselves. Hey there, I'm Eli Straw, mental performance coach and the founder of SuccessStartsWithin.com. Now, when we think about negative thoughts about ourselves, so we could also say this is negative self-talk, we want to look at it as subconscious thoughts, right? And then conscious thoughts. Subconscious thoughts mean those thoughts that just pop into your head. Those are the thoughts that are just, they're just there. All of a sudden, you're just having these negative thoughts about yourself. Maybe it's after a mistake, or maybe it's before the game starts. But you have these thoughts that just pop into your mind, and you're not exactly sure why you're even having these thoughts. Conscious thoughts, on the other hand, are the thoughts you are choosing to have. So in the moment, you're thinking, okay, I want to think this. And so you're telling yourself, all right, I am going to play well today. For the most part, the conscious thoughts we have are going to be more positive because we're trying to have positive thoughts, but we can also have conscious negative thoughts where, we're consciously thinking things like, I'm sucking today. I can't believe how terribly I played today. The reason that we want to break it down into subconscious thoughts and then also into conscious thoughts is because if we want to work on changing the way we are thinking and changing the way we are talking to ourselves, we need to understand the way both of these play into one another and how both of them are leading to the beliefs you hold about yourself. So an example of this is a soccer player who is getting ready to start a game. And this soccer player is thinking a lot of subconscious thoughts that are negative. So they're thinking things like, oh, I hope I don't play poorly today. I haven't been playing very well in practice recently. I hope coach doesn't bench me today. I hope I don't make mistakes and embarrass myself in front of my teammates. I'm terrible. I'm not going to do well today. So they're having a lot of those subconscious thoughts spring into their mind. Now, why do you think those thoughts are there? Well, subconscious thoughts are simply built through repetition, right? They're all about patterns. So maybe, years ago, this soccer player heard somebody else talk this way, or a coach talked to them this way, or maybe they had some conscious thoughts about how they're worried about how they'll play. And then those thoughts stuck around, and then they kept having those thoughts. Maybe they kept hearing other people think that way or talk that way, and so they kept having those thoughts more and more. And then all of a sudden, over the years, what ended up happening, or just even over a few months, what ended up happening, is that this pattern of thinking, which is negative, developed into their subconscious way of thinking. So then automatically before games, they think this way. Then what ends up happening during games, so let's say they make a mistake during the game, and then they're going to have those subconscious thoughts pop up as well, again, because those subconscious thoughts are happening in the moment as a result of the situation or the mistake that they made. But they'll also have some more conscious thoughts at that point where they're consciously thinking, oh, that was a stupid mistake. Why did I pass it there? Or why did I do that? And then as they have more of those conscious thoughts that are negative, what ends up happening is that's refueling those subconscious thoughts that will then come back in the future. Now, these subconscious thoughts are important for us to recognize because if we want to stop negative thinking, right, having these negative thoughts about ourselves, we do want to work on reprogramming our subconscious mind. So creating new thought patterns that are more positive. Once you do that, everything else becomes so much easier for you because you don't have to try to think more positively. It happens naturally. But how do we do this? Well, we work on reprogramming our subconscious mind through the use of our conscious mind. So conscious thinking is that thinking you do where you are choosing to think a certain way. This is where before games you might choose to read off a list of positive self-talk statements. Or it might be that you practice what's known as reframing, where when you notice yourself thinking negatively, you then reframe it into a more positive thought. You're going to be trying to think in a conscious way, in a consciously positive way at that moment. But we use our conscious thoughts to both help us develop more positive thinking in the moment when we're actually playing a game because we have to have more positive thoughts at that point. But then we also use this conscious thinking to help us reprogram our subconscious mind. So here's a simple strategy or a simple framework for you to follow if you're really struggling with a lot of negative self-talk and a lot of negative thoughts about yourself currently. What you want to make sure first is that you've identified what are the normal or the most common subconscious thoughts you have. For example, a lot of players I work with in one-on-one coaching, which, by the way, if you are interested in learning more about the one-on-one coaching I offer, I've put a link to that in the description below. They struggle with thoughts like, I hope I don't mess up today. I suck. I'm terrible. I'm not feeling good today. I hope I don't embarrass myself. Things like that. Once you identify what your most common negative thoughts are or unhelpful thoughts are, you want to then create positive alternatives that work to counteract or reframe those negative thoughts. So for example, if I say a thought like, I suck, I would then reframe that to, I know I'm a great player. If I have the thought like, I'm not prepared a lot, right? So I constantly think I'm not prepared, I would reframe that to, I trust in my training and I trust in my preparation. So what I'm doing is I'm just taking this negative thought that I typically have and I'm changing it into a positive thought. Then what you want to do is you want to work on reading that list to yourself every single day. The more you do this, the better. The reason we are doing this is because to reprogram our subconscious mind, we have to use repetition. There's no way for us to just flip a switch and reprogram the way we talk to ourselves. We have to practice day in and day out, giving conscious effort to thinking in this new way. Over time, what will end up happening is that this new way of thinking will become a pattern. So then before games or during games or after you make mistakes, you won't have as many automatic negative thoughts because you've put the work in to develop more automatic positive thoughts. So that's what you want to make sure you're doing first. And the reason that I say do that first is because it takes a while, right? You are not going to put this self-talk list into practice and then all of a sudden tomorrow you have a bunch of more automatic positive thoughts. That's just not how it works. It takes a while. So you want to make sure you put this into practice as soon as possible. The next part of this is where you are consciously working to reframe these thoughts. In the moment, like I was explaining earlier, we know that most of our negative thoughts, not all of them, but most of them will be automatic. So they're coming from our subconscious mind. We have to use our conscious mind, our conscious thinking in that moment to reframe or change whatever we're saying to ourselves. And so another way of looking at this is as though you are responding to yourself, right? So you have the thought of, I can't believe I made that mistake. You respond to yourself by saying, it's okay, let it go, I'll get the next one. This is a really important part to this whole process because this is where you actually change the way you're thinking today. The self-talk list where you are working to reprogram your mind, that is the long-term approach that we're taking to work on reprogramming your subconscious mind over time. But if you need to think more positively today, it has to come from your conscious mind. That's where you have to consciously try and think in a more positive way. So you want to use that reframing and you want to use the responding. Now, the last thing I want to mention here is that if we want to consciously think in a positive way, we need to do so proactively before games. So that self-talk list that I was mentioning earlier, you want to take that and you always want to make sure you are reading over it before practices and before games, because this is a way to prime your mind to begin proactively thinking more positively. When we break down our thinking into subconscious thoughts and conscious thoughts, we see that most of our negative thoughts will be coming from our subconscious mind. So we need to make sure that we are using our conscious mind, our conscious thinking to counteract that. We do this by making sure that we are using a self-talk routine to reprogram the way we subconsciously think over time, but then we're also working on using our conscious mind, our conscious thinking in the moment to reframe any negative thoughts and to proactively have more positive thoughts about ourselves and our game. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. I put out new videos each week on sports psychology and mental training. And if you're interested in one-on-one coaching or any of the sports psychology programs I have available, I've put links to those in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I wish you the best of success in all that you do.